Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Back to the Cardboard. I hope this video finds you all good and everything's starting to slowly turn back to normal, slowly, for most of us anyway. And looking forward to baseball. Hopefully, keep your fingers crossed this plan goes through and we have at least some summer training here in the next couple 3-4 weeks. I don't know what's going to happen, but man, really need some baseball right now. Sorry, my neighbor's out mowing his yard. You can probably hear it, but I want to talk to you guys a little bit today about what influences you as a collector. You know, today's market, we have pretty volatile for the most part. Cards that go up and go down, and ones that are super, sought after than others that people are just trying to dump, and it's just a lot of speculation, and that's what card collecting is. For me, it's a hobby. I love to collect it. I don't really speculate in the prices or anything like that. And that brings me around to the point of back in the middle to late 80s, before the internet, you had to rely on magazines, and a lot of times those things were at least a month behind price guide wise. Of course, back then I looked at that stuff because, yeah, man, my commons are 4 cents. This card here's worth 25 cents. Wow. And, if you hit a card that was over $1, man, it was big time. And it was a good time in collecting anyways for me. But I was influenced back in the day by my friends, somewhat the price guides, primarily Beckett, of course. But most of my influence in card collecting came from my friends and the people I collected with. Most all of us were big Cincinnati Reds fans, and we tried to get those sought-after Reds cards, the hot ones of the day. But I want to show you guys some of the cards from my collecting days in the middle to late 80s, a couple years into the 90s before I got out of it. The cards that really was sought after during my early collecting days. Now, I've been collecting since the late 70s, I guess you could say. Took some time off from, a lot of time off from 94 till last year, basically. And a lot of stuff has changed in the meantime. But back in those days, you didn't have the internet to rely on. You had, of course, the magazines, and that was pretty much it, or your friends. Value was basically relative to what you thought that card was worth. Like I've said in some other videos, I would trade one card that I highly sought after to 3 or 4 cards, and it was just a one-to-one thing. And if somebody really valued that card, hey, I'll give you 2 of these for one of those. No price was ever usually brought into perspective, but now things have changed quite a bit. But I want to share with you guys the 10 cards that really back in the day influenced my collecting and my kind of collecting style. There's that thing again. What is that? But let's flip this camera around and look at the 10 cards that influence my baseball card collecting hobby. You ready? Let's get to it. Okay, one of the first cards that really influenced me, and you'll see this theme throughout this top 10, was this number 10 card here, the 87 Donruss Bo Jackson. It influenced me quite a bit. Me and my friends, we were all familiar with Bo Jackson, mainly because he had played with the Auburn Tigers football team in the SEC, and we followed all the SEC basketball and football teams, and we knew that he was the 85 Heisman winner. And when we found out that he was going to but make baseball as well as football, we were ecstatic. believe it or not, Bo was selected second round in '82's draft by the New York Yankees, but he opted out of that to go ahead and go play for Auburn football. And this '87 Donruss really at the time was the set of the year. Through my circle anyway, in my area, it was way more sought after than Topps back in the day. And it was just, I don't know, it was definitely the set to pick up. Now, it really wasn't as widely distributed in this area. I don't know why, but when we found a pack here or there, we picked it up. And this out of that set was top 10 in my book of one of the cards to get that year. Then next up, got this card here, the '85 Topps Rocket Man Roger Clemens. There's a lot of fanfare stirred up with the '85 set. Several different good rookies in there, namely, for instance, Dwight Gooden, Kirby Puckett, of course, Rocket Man here. And then you also had the USA basketball team that was inserted in here, but really in '85, it was, I mean, yeah, the Mcgwire was in there, but in '85, we didn't even know. I had no clue who Mark Mcgwire was. I could really care less. I'm sure I probably had 2 or 3 of those that I traded off for whatever reason. But this was one of the cards, and for whatever reason, in my circle of collecting friends, and we had trouble pulling this card. We had the Puckets, we had the Goodwin, the Doc Goodens. But this card, for whatever reason, eluded us. And in my circle, it was highly sought after. And that's number 9, '85 Topps Roger Clemens. And then this card, of course, there's a lot of being stirred up right now about this card. Prices are going through the roof. And it, to me, I hate to say this, but it is an iconic card of the late '80s. Of course, it's the '89 Upper Deck Griffey Jr. Now, me and my friends, we were all Cincinnati Reds fans, and we were real familiar with King Griffey Sr. And we found out that Jr. was going to play the game. This was one of the cards that we went after. Yeah, he was on one of those West Coast teams, but we really didn't care. We knew the hype, and we knew his dad, and we knew he was going to be a good player. Didn't know really the fanfare about this card at the time. We just knew his dad, and we knew that, we wanted Junior. This card, the '89 Upper Decks, fresh on the scene. The fresh card company that we had, in 8 years, and this is one of the cards that we went after. Number 8, King Griffey Jr. And then next up, keeping with the reoccurring theme, the '87 Topps Bo Jackson. Of course, all the Bo hype. At this time, he was snapping bats and running up walls and all kinds of crazy stuff with this '87 Topps Future Stars. Love this card. This is one of the definitely one of the top 10s from the '80s to pick up. And then I know you guys are going to hate me for these next couple. Maybe not. I don't know. But believe it or not, this was one of the cards that we all wanted. That I wanted, the '87 Jose Canseco. Of course, we knew Jose because in '86 he was named Rookie of the Year, but in '87 he was the man. As a matter of fact, the very first card I got, I had to trade for, and ended up trading 3 Barry Bonds cards to 1 Jose Canseco Rookie Cup card. I had a binder with at least, I know 9 of these, and maybe a couple more on another page that ended up getting stolen from me. But happy to get this card, the 87 Topps Jose Canseco that I traded a couple Barry Bonds, Topps, and I think it was maybe a Don Ross Bonds, 3 cards to 1 from the first one I got. So this was a highly sought after card in 87. And then, believe it or not, in the top 5, this one. Now this 87 Topps Mcgwire really didn't take off till around the All-Star game that year. Mcgwire did play 18 games in 86, but didn't have a whole lot of fanfare. But when he hit, I think it was at the All-Star game, he ended up with like 33 home runs at the middle of the season, and everybody's like, man, he's going to break Maris's record. He's going to be the guy to do it. And hitting some monster home runs. Not quite like he did in later years, but he was hot at the All-Star break. Kind of cooled off, ended up finishing the year with 49 home runs. But, man, there was a lot of fanfare around this card. He ended up getting the Rookie of the Year, I guess, because of that. But right there, the All-Star break on in 87, this card was on fire. Everybody wanted it. That's number 5, 1987 Mcgwire. Now, this card here, you're going to say, what? This is the 1990 Upper Deck Dale Murphy. Of course, Murphy, I don't know if you guys know this or not, if I've ever even let it out there, Murphy was my favorite player growing up. And highly sought after, chasing the 77 Topps Murphy that I never really got until I was able to get a job and afford one. But at the time, Murphy was the man in my book. I admired him over anybody. And this card was not particularly this card. This is an actual 90 Fleer. This is not the card that we wanted. This is not the card that I really wanted to chase after. It was this card. If you notice, it's reversed. Got the reverse negative. Now this card, the one on your all's left, is it's just a reprint. But never actually got one of these. I had this card. I got this card, but never was able to find a reverse negative of the Murphy. I would have probably had a heart attack if I was to pull this from a pack, but that was a card that was highly talked about, but rarely seen. This was the white whale, or the white elephant, or the white rhino, or whatever you want to call it, but that was the 1990 Dale Murphy reverse negative, coming in at number 4. And then number 3. Yep, had to be there. Late 80s, like I said. This card in 85, 86 really didn't have much meaning to anybody, but in 87, it caught fire, along with Mcgwire's 87 cards. But this card really set the world on fire because of what he did. The 85 Mcgwire U.S. Olympic team card. This was highly sought after. I think I ended up having one that back in the day, but just recently, not too long ago, picked this one up to fill that hole in my set. But this number 3, and then coming in at number 2 is 1991 Upper Deck short print number 1 of Michael Jordan. This card, just like Bo Jackson, when we found out that Jordan was going to play baseball, this card here really, really took off. It didn't really hold a whole lot of meaning in 91. I thought it was pretty cool. Ended up, I think, getting one. I can't remember if I did or not, but I really, really wanted one, just mainly because of Michael Jordan. You know, I already had a name as a super basketball star, and hey, he's going to try baseball? That's going to be crazy. Well, maybe he'll take off like Bo Jackson did. Who knows? I don't know. But there was a lot of hype on this card. Of course, Jordan, you know, he didn't really start playing until 94 at the age of 31. And he ended up getting picked up by the Chicago White Sox. Ended up playing that 1 year in 94 with the Birmingham Barons. Didn't really do a whole lot, as a matter of fact. But this card had a lot of pre-hype for 3 years until he kind of fell on his face in baseball. But this card was the card to get for several years there, so that's why I put that as number 2. And it's gaining popularity today too, for whatever reason. But that's the Michael Jordan 1991 Upper Deck short print. And then last but not least, this card here, the 1990 Score Bow Nose. Bow Nose. Never seen a card like this before. Yeah, we had black and white cards, but never one of a shirtless man, one, but two with football pads and a baseball bat. What's up with that? So everybody wanted this card. I did end up having, I actually still have my card that I had from back in the day. That was one that was in one of the binders that I kept that didn't get stolen. But it was the most widely, in my circle anyway, and around this area, is the most highly sought after card, really in that time frame from 85 to 91, right in there. But unfortunately, Bo's got hurt his hip, I think it was, and played his last game in January. He played his last football game in January of 91, and that was pretty much the end of his football career. He did hold on and play a few more games in baseball, and ended up retiring in 94 because of his hip. But this card, for whatever reason, the reasons that I described anyway, in my circle, was the card to pick up in that time frame from roughly 85 to 91, 92, in that realm. The 90 Score Bo Jackson. And still today, that card is really, in my eyes, one of the iconic cards, if you want to call it that, of the middle to late 80s, early 90s. That was the card that really defines the era of, I hate to say it, junk wax, because I don't believe any of it is junk. It all holds a meaning to somebody, and this card here holds a very special meaning to me, and it defined my collecting career, and led me in the path that I'm kind of going today to some degree. But anyway, that's all I got, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you agree with some of these. I'm sure not all of them are in your guys' top 10, but that's in my area and around here with my collecting circle. These are the 10 cards that were highly sought after in 5 or 6 years time span there. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I know I went long, but I appreciate you. God bless you. God bless America. Hey, until next time, guys. Bo knows. Peace out.